I made my first investment before I was legally allowed to, and I almost lost all of it in less than 48 hours. I wasn't trying to become rich. I wasn't thinking about financial freedom. I just didn't want to feel stuck anymore. You know that feeling? When everyone tells you you're too young, but deep down, you know time is literally your biggest advantage. That contradiction, it messes with your head. And that's exactly where this story starts. I was under 18, no bank account in my name, no credit card, no official way to invest. And yet, I kept hearing the same thing everywhere. Start investing early. Cool, but how? Like seriously, how are you supposed to invest when the system itself tells you to wait? That's when I realized something uncomfortable. Nobody actually explains this part. They just assume you'll figure it out. Or worse, they don't even think about people in your position. And maybe you're there right now. You want to start. You're curious, but every door feels locked. So I did something I probably wasn't supposed to do. I asked someone older to help me open an account. Yeah, not the most independent move. And I remember thinking, does this even count as my investment? Or theirs? Because here's the truth nobody tells you. When you're underage, investing is not just about money, it's about trust. And trust is risky. Not just financially, emotionally too. I put my first money into something I didn't fully understand. Not because I was careless, but because I was impatient. I didn't want to feel behind. Maybe you felt that too. You see people your age making money online, talking about crypto, stocks, side hustles, and suddenly doing nothing feels like losing. So I rushed, and within 2 days, the value dropped hard. I remember staring at the screen thinking, did I just mess this up already? And here's where it gets uncomfortable. It wasn't just about the money. It was about what that loss meant. Was I too early, too inexperienced, or just not made for this? And this is usually the moment where everything starts to break. Not on the screen, but in your head. Because at first you think it's just numbers, just a drop, just bad timing. But then something shifts, and if you don't catch it early, it starts controlling the way you make every decision after that. You begin replaying the moment. Why did I choose that? Why didn't I wait? What did I miss that everyone else saw? And that last question, it doesn't leave quickly. You open the app again, not to learn, not to analyze, just to check if it got worse. And here's the strange part. You already know the number before you even see it. It's lower, and somehow that confirms something in your mind. But what exactly is it confirming? That's the part most people never stop to question, because from here, 2 paths start forming. Most people don't even realize they're choosing one. They just react. And that reaction quietly decides what happens next. Not just with this investment, but with every financial decision after this. You tell yourself, I'll learn more before I try again. Sounds responsible, sounds mature, but if you look a little deeper, you'll notice something uncomfortable. You're not stepping back to learn. You're stepping back to protect something. And if you don't notice what that something is, you'll carry it into every future decision. I've seen this happen too many times, and it always starts the same way. But it never ends where people expect. A 16-year-old saves money for months, skips going out, skips small things they actually wanted, just to finally have enough to start. That moment feels big, bigger than it should. And maybe that's the first mistake, but you don't realize it yet. They invest $100, and for a brief moment, everything feels right, like they're ahead, like they figured something out early, like this is the beginning of something. Then it drops. $100 becomes $80. then $76, and nothing dramatic happens. No alert, no warning, just a quiet change on the screen. But inside, it's not quiet at all, because now a new question appears, one that wasn't there before. What if I'm not good at this? And that question sticks longer than the loss itself. They start checking less, then more, then less again, not because they have a strategy, but because they don't know how to feel about it. And this is where something subtle happens, something that decides whether they continue or disappear. But almost nobody notices it in real time. They stop engaging, not all at once, slowly. They stop asking why, they stop trying to understand, and eventually they step back. And when they explain it later, they say something simple: investing just isn't for me. But that sentence, it didn't come from logic. It came from a moment they didn't fully understand, because what actually happened there wasn't about the money. It was about identity. When you're starting, you don't have data, you don't have experience, so your brain fills the gap with something else. Assumptions, and those assumptions feel real, even when they're completely wrong. A small loss doesn't feel small. It feels like evidence that you're late, that you missed something, that others are ahead in a way you can't catch up to. And if you don't interrupt that pattern early, you start building your financial decisions on top of that belief. That's the part nobody explains. Not how to invest, but how a single moment can quietly shape how you see yourself with money. And if you don't see it happening, you won't even realize why you stopped. That moment changed how I see personal finance. Not in a dramatic, motivational way, but in a quieter, more honest way. I realized something simple. Investing isn't about being allowed, it's about being prepared. And those are not the same thing, because you can technically invest at 18 and still have no idea what you're doing, or you can be 16, learning, observing, understanding risk, building something way more valuable than money, judgment, and nobody can give you that. Not an app, not a platform. You build it slowly. But here's the part that most people get wrong. Starting early doesn't mean throwing money blindly. It means using your position differently. And if you're under 18, you actually have an advantage most people waste. Let me explain this in a way I wish someone explained it to me. When you're young, you don't have a lot of money, but you have something better, time to make mistakes without destroying your life. That's huge. So instead of obsessing over how much you can invest, I started focusing on what happens when I lose. Yeah, lose. Because losses teach faster than wins, and they hurt just enough to make you pay attention. And this is where personal finance becomes real. Not numbers, not charts, decisions. Small decisions that stack over time, like choosing to understand something before putting money into it, even when you feel like you're missing out, or choosing to wait, even when waiting feels like losing. After that first mistake, I didn't quit, but I changed how I approached everything. I started tracking what I was thinking before making a decision, not just what I did, but why I did it. And honestly, that changed more than any investment ever did, because I stopped reacting and started noticing patterns, my patterns. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So, can you invest as a minor? Technically, yes, with help. But that's not the real question. The real question is, what kind of investor are you becoming before you even start? Because one day, you will have full access, your own accounts, your own money, your own decisions. And when that moment comes, you won't rise to the level of your expectations. You'll fall to the level of your habits. And that part is already happening right now. And if I'm being completely honest, that first loss didn't really teach me how to invest. not in the way I expected. It didn't suddenly make me smarter. It didn't give me clarity. It didn't unlock some hidden strategy. What it did was expose something I wasn't ready to see. How quickly I was willing to turn against myself over something I didn't even fully understand yet. Because in that moment, I wasn't reacting to the market. I was reacting to what I thought that loss said about me. And that difference, it's subtle, but it changes everything. I started noticing something after that. Every time I made a decision with money, there was always a second layer behind it. Not logic, not strategy, something quieter. Fear of being wrong, fear of missing out, fear of proving to myself that I wasn't good at this. And once you see that, you can't go back to pretending it's just numbers on a screen. Because personal finance, at least the real version of it, is not about money first. It's about how you behave when money is involved, how you think, how you hesitate, how you justify decisions you don't fully understand. And most of that happens silently. Looking back now, I don't think the problem was starting too early. If anything, starting early just revealed everything faster. What actually hurt was expecting myself to feel confident before I had any real reason to be. I wanted certainty without sitting through confusion. I wanted results without fully understanding the process that creates them. And when that didn't happen, I took it personally. So if you're somewhere in that phase right now, where things feel unclear, where you're not sure if you're doing it right, where every decision feels heavier than it should, that's not a sign that you're failing. That's a sign that you're finally paying attention, because this part, this uncomfortable, quiet, uncertain part, this is where your real relationship with money starts forming. Not when you win, not when everything goes up, but right here, when you don't have clear answers and you still have to decide who you're going to be with your money. And maybe the real advantage was never about starting early. Maybe it's about staying long enough to understand your own patterns before those patterns start controlling bigger decisions. Because one thing I've realized is this: money doesn't just amplify what you have, it amplifies how you think. And if you don't understand that early, you don't notice it later. You just feel it in the results you can't explain. So yeah, learning how to invest matters, but learning how you react when things don't go your way, that might be the part that actually decides everything. If you made it this far, then you already felt it. That moment where something doesn't fully make sense yet, but you know it matters. Most people ignore that feeling. They scroll, they move on, they tell themselves they'll figure it out later. And they never do. But if you're still here, you're not just watching this, you're thinking, and that's rare. So don't just close this video and forget it. Do something small. Go back to the last financial decision you made and ask yourself one question. Was I thinking or was I reacting? Because if you can start noticing that difference, you're already ahead of most people who have way more money than you. And if you want to keep building that awareness, not just with investing, but with how you actually handle money in real life, then stay close. Because this is just the beginning of something most people never fully understand.